Hi everyone, welcome to this Q&A. Absolutely thrilled to have Paul Jarvis here with me. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
And it's been really cool because during this week, I have been doing some ad hoc surveying here and there, either on social or just via email when I'm one-on-one chatting with people, because I'm really wanting to find out, okay, is this do you know Paul already, or is he new to you? Because there's a lot of people that I'm, reaching out to and sharing with that are kind of brand new to this online business space, so to speak. They're, coming into it, starting to read blogs, starting to figure out where they kind of fit, where's their space. And so there were quite a few people that came back to me and go, and shared, Paul's new to me. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. Thanks so much for sharing it with me. So for your benefit, I want to share a little bit of background about Paul and kind of what this Q&A is all about, why I asked him to come along and, share with us as virtual assistants, whether you're established or whether you're getting your business off the ground now. So the first thing is Paul, he basically started working independently for himself as a freelancer in the 90s. So a couple of decades ago, and I don't personally know anyone else who's got that type of track record doing this and enjoying it all the way and, continuing. Well, actually, I don't know anyone who's had that much history, successful or not. So I really feel, and you probably heard me share this in an intro video I shared about this, but basically I really feel that, borrowing his bird's eye view, his kind of long-term perspective of this online business space, freelancing, online marketing, all that type of thing. There's so much that you can leverage there, both in starting your own career, but also in that perspective of being able to help your clients in, managing or growing their businesses as well. And then the other thing is that Paul is like a pro at MailChimp. He knows MailChimp better than anyone I know. I was, observing his business and his newsletter from a few years back and kind of thinking to myself, wow, Paul, he goes all out on MailChimp. He knows how to, play full out, use all the features. Well, at that stage, I didn't know that. Back then, I was thinking, Paul Jarvis, his background is web design, right? So that's his skill. Well, that's one of his skills. He's then transitioned into writing and teaching as well. But as a web designer and at a very high standard, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe he's just super passionate about the aesthetics of MailChimp. And so he'll just stick with MailChimp, no matter what. But then as I started to get the backstory and as I, studied more of what Paul was sharing, I realized that, he's using MailChimp at this level when most people know about the features down at this level. So that's kind of why I thought it was so powerful for him to be able to share those insights with us today so that we can be modeling the same type of approach. Whether or not we go the full extent straight away, at least we know what's possible and we can start to edge that way with our clients. And then the third reason that I wanted to chat with Paul today is because Paul, from my observations as an outsider following him online, he is super diligent about being, really deliberate in the way that he sets up his life on his own terms. How do I explain that? I wouldn't call it balance. You might have read an article that Paul shared about balance, but what I would call it is he is really diligent about blending into his day-to-day life all of the elements that are important to him. So whether that's creating things online, whether that's connecting with his audience online, whether that's going out into his garden and, growing veggies or building a new planter box or, doing something with his wife, whatever it is, he's really diligent about that. And from my perspective, as a VA over these past 5.5 years, I've been privy to behind the scenes of a lot of online business owners, day-to-day life. And I think when you're in the online business space, sure, I'm sure Paul has spent many a big day behind the laptop or the iMac or whatever it is, just like the rest of us, probably more so since he's been in the game so long. But at the same time, I think that's a huge deal that he, is creating that lifestyle, and it's something that we can kind of be aware of and conscious of as we're building our careers and picking and choosing, okay, yep, this is what I want to do. No, don't want to do that. And being really deliberate about that. So Paul, are those things that I just shared true? Is that true, or is that just my perception?
No, yeah, I definitely think that's all true, and that's nice of you to say. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And so just before we get started, I'm going to start to, ask Paul some of his insights. But just before we get started, a little bit of admin. So first of all, if you can hear me, I'm sure it's okay, but if you can hear me loud and clear, just type in a quick message to confirm that in the right-hand side chat panel. That would be great. If you can hear and see Paul and I loud and clear. And the other thing that I just wanted to share with you is the chat. The chat is on the right-hand side panel, which I believe is my side over this way. And that is where you can basically add feedback, add comments, reply to Paul and I, chat with each other. And then if you have questions come to mind, pop those down below the video. So just down below me is where you can write in a question, and that's where Paul and I are going to be focused as we get into the Q&A section. And that actually allows me to actually bookmark the video. So if you're watching the recording, you can jump back into the sections that are most relevant to you and that kind of thing. Feedback in the chat, Q&A down below. If the video pauses or anything, just refresh or log back in through the Crowdcast link that you've got in your email inbox, and you should be good to go. But other than that, let us get started. I'll just take a sip of water. So Paul, the first thing that I would actually really love to ask you about is there was an article that you wrote, and it's called I Found Your Passion, right? Is that the right headline?
Something like that. It depends what A/B variant I'm running with that.
Oh, okay.
The headline changes based on what I'm testing, but yeah, it's something like I found your passion.
Well, that's interesting because I did see that it had two headlines, and I thought I must have just found it in different, locations. So there you go.
I'm always testing headlines.
He's getting fancy. So in this article, there's a snippet that just hit home for me, and I won't quote it verbatim because I don't remember it off by heart, but it's something along the lines of, I've never just done something simply because I want to do what I love. I like helping people, and I really like getting paid to help people. And when I read that, it just I was like, yes, that's it. And it really, it paints that picture for me of just you leaning in, being, how do I say it, inspired to do good work, to be present, to use your skills, to not idealize I have to be following my bliss 24/7. I can do good work and get fulfillment from that. And I'm going to set up a really good lifestyle, and I'm going to be paid well for that and all that type of thing. Can you share a little bit about that perception? Because I know from my perspective, I get emails from people where they're sharing with me. They might have just come into this online business space, or they've been trying to get something off the ground, an online business or a virtual assistant career, a freelancing career. And I can almost see, I can feel through their words that their shoulders relax and they exhale when they realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to be this gung-ho, ambitious entrepreneur. I can learn skills, I can do good work, I can be present, and that will enable me to live my life on my own terms. So when I feel that, that's kind of what resonates for me with what you shared. Can you share a little bit about your thought process around that, around services and skills and helping people?
Yeah, so I think that our careers or our jobs or whatever you want to call it can be very iterative. So you can start out in one place and you don't go all the way to the end right away. There's stuff in between, and the stuff in between isn't just things that you have to get done. Yeah. It's important part. Hopefully it's enjoyable sometimes. Hopefully you learn things along the way. So you can't just I think there's this comparison trap on the internet where you see people who are doing really well, and you don't necessarily think about how they got there. You just think wouldn't it be great if I had that as well? And then you get depressed or sad or upset with yourself. I tried for a month and I'm not at that place. I'm not making whatever it is a month or that sort of thing. So I think it's just, people need to just kind of be happy with where they're at a lot of the times, and spend a bit less time comparing and a bit more time thinking about, okay, what's the real reason why you're doing this? Why do you actually want to be a VA or a web designer or whatever it is that you're doing? And if you're doing it for a reason that makes sense, that it doesn't matter if you're just starting out and you have one client, or if you're a few months in and you lost a client and maybe you need to look for another one. It's all part of a process. And I think too often we look more towards what the outcome is, which is really hard to control. I can't even control the outcome of situations. I wish I could. But what we really need to do is think about like, okay, if I'm just enjoying the process, like if I only have one client and I need like 6 to make this a full-time job. But if I like working with this one client, then that's a good start. Like it's okay to be happy with where you're at, even if where you're at isn't where you want to be in the future. And I think that's kind of a big thing. And I think the reason why I wrote that article was, one, because I wanted to make a lot of jokes about pickles, because like half of the article is jokes about pickles. I don't even know why I wrote about that. But,
just for context there, guys, in the intro to the article, he says, I found your passion. It was hiding behind the old jar of pickles in the fridge. So if you read
it was there the whole time. Yeah. But yeah, so the point of that article that I was trying to make, and which I feel is really valid, is that we don't just, like, I think we get so caught up in like, we need to find, like you said, like we need to follow our bliss at all costs, or we need to like find our one true passion. And unless we do that, like, where our lives are worthless. And I don't think that's ever the case. Like I've had so many, like I've been working for myself, like you said, for about 2 decades. And like, I've done so many different things. Before that, I did so many different other things. And it's like, I just kind of go with where it takes us. And a lot of times I feel like I don't want to follow my passion because I feel like that could be limiting, or I don't want to set goals for myself so specifically that it limits myself. Because if I look at like the year before I wrote my first book, I had no intention of being an author. And the reason why I didn't write a book before that was because I was like, well, I'm not an author. Like I can't write a book. And it's like, I don't want to limit myself, or I would start to think about it like, oh, if I wrote a book and it didn't do well, then it would be awful. I would be crushed. And then it was just like, I had to call bullshit on myself and be like, okay, well, how about I just write a book because I want to write a book? And then I finally got over myself and I got to like writing a book. So I think a lot of times we just have to get out of our own heads, because our brains don't always have our best intentions.
Yes.
At heart. So,
you know, when I hear what you're describing there, like the words that bubble up for me is like presence, like leaning in, or, you know, for forgetting whatever the jargon is of that term. But those are the kind of things that come to mind when I'm thinking about how you approach this, you know. Just that presence, you know, like you were talking about, you know, oh, I don't perceive myself a writer. You weren't identifying yourself as a writer before you wrote your best book. Your first book, right? Yeah, that's just such a huge thing of going, okay, here's what I want to do next. Here's what I want to do next. And for you, like what I feel is like when you were sharing that, you know, I like helping people and I like being paid to help people. And here's my skills. You know, there's a lot of talk online about that differentiator. There's more and more blog posts being published now about that differentiator between services and products, and, you know, busting the myth of products being passive income. You know, there's just varying degrees of leverage in services and in products. And, you know, the way that I perceive you approaching it is like, okay, I've got these skills. And if there's somewhere that I'm going to be interested and I can use my skill set and it's going to make an impact, then I'm going to do that. And it's kind of irrelevant from my, you know, observations, whether that for you, that is services or products. It's just like, okay, well, it's kind of one in the same. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's just different. It's just different versions, and I guess different ways that I'm doing what I want to do.
Yes.
And a lot of times, like because I've seen, like I've like been in this for a while, so like I've seen people like, oh, okay, the first thing was like, oh, I need to work for myself. It's better than working for somebody else. So everybody jumped ship, like, okay, everybody works for themselves, and everybody's working for themselves doing services. Then somebody was like, hey, wait, products are better than client services. So everybody's like, no, I got to go over here and I have to make a product, I have to make a course, I have to have this, and then it's like, oh, well, no, software is better than products, than like info products. So it's like, no, everybody has to jump. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like I've done all of those things. I have a software company, I do products, I do client work. There's not one that's better than the other. They're just different versions of servitude. And that's business is servitude for money, pretty much. So it's just different versions of that. And I don't think one's not better than the other. Like software, actually right now, I find software so much harder than anything else I've ever done, because it's such a slog to build a software as a service business. Right. But everybody, like all the articles online are like, oh, SaaSes are like, where the money's at? And it's like, I make so much more on my courses. And then before that, it was like, I was making more doing client work. And I don't think, like I know so many people that do client services. They love it. They do well. They're booked months in advance. They have great clients. they don't want to make products, and they shouldn't. So it's the goal for, it should be, I think we need to like internalize and put it through our own lens of like, do I actually want to do this? Will I actually be happy if I accomplish this thing? Like, will I be happy running a product business or a software business? If you run a software business, it's pretty much all support. Like if you don't like doing tech support, you have to make enough to hire a tech support person, or you have to like not make a software company. Like that's really my day.
Yeah.
I made the software. Now all I do is support the software.
Right.
And I have to be okay with that, because I knew that was part of it. And that's not the best decision for everybody. So yeah, I think a lot of times we have to take advice, especially advice on the internet, and just kind of pass it through our own filters and be like, is this actually what I want to do? Is this actually something that I would be happy with if I achieved it? And then sometimes the answer is no, and that's awesome.
Yep. Yep. I think this is huge. I'm so glad that, Paul had the opportunity to share this, because this is, I really feel, what allows you to build that long-term career. And not only that, not only keep growing and growing, whether you want to be increasing your income, increasing your fulfillment, refining your client base to be working just with the people that you absolutely love collaborating with, all those types of things, all that growth, I really think comes down to what Paul has just been sharing here. And something that we can kind of model from him is that diligence about picking and choosing, and about, kind of running it through your own filter, like he shared. That's kind of something that I'm always aware of when I'm thinking about how this is growing for the long term, because I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So yeah, that is really huge. The next thing I want to ask you about, Paul, is you are like, I don't know what the right word would be, but web designer by trade, or how would you describe it? You were a web designer first, or something like that?
I started out as a web designer.
Right. Okay. You started out as a web designer.
Don't ask me what I am now, because I have no idea.
Okay. So an exceptional web designer, if you're new to Paul, working with clients like Marie Forleo, Danielle Laporte in the online business world, Microsoft, you worked with MTV, Warner Music, huge clients, right? Because Paul, he would come in and collaborate with clients in such a way where they know that he's covering all angles. He's not just going, okay, I can make your site look good, but he's got that collaborative partner approach to working with his clients, and that's how he was able to get to such a high level. Well, I'm sure that's one of the reasons. There would be others as well, his communication and so forth, and the presence like we're just talking about. So, but what I want to ask you is, how did you end up helping clients with their email marketing and their email lists? How did that come about? My perspective, working with web designers, oftentimes, they'll grab the web form code that they need, pop it in a web design, and that's the extent of their involvement in the email software or MailChimp, whatever it is they're working in. How did that play out for you?
Well, I think this relates to VAs quite a bit as well, not just web designers. So, and I'll just caveat it with that. I think that the way that I kind of approached it after a couple years of doing work was just that, like, I realized that I was just like a skilled laborer, which is okay, but it's really hard to get past like an income level or even a perception in an industry if you're just a laborer. Like, it's really difficult to do. So I started to think about, okay, how could I get past that and become like a more valued person, where people don't just tell me, I want this website designed this way, can you do it? How many hours will it take? Instead, how more like, hey, Paul, I have this problem with my website. I want to make it better. Tell me what I should do and how I should change it, because I don't know and you do. And that's kind of the difference. And I teach this in the course that I teach for freelancers, is you have to kind of define yourself as more of like a domain authority instead of just a skilled laborer, because then like you can charge a lot more, not just a little bit, but like exponentially more, because then you're really showing the value to a client based on what they care about the most, which is their bottom line. Mm-hmm. So if you can show them that your skills will help them make more money, they will want to pay you, and they will want to pay you more and more and more. So I think thinking about it like that, and thinking about like, okay, how can I help my clients with their business overall, not just the web design, because that was obviously, because all I worked with was online businesses. So that was like the biggest part. But it's like, okay, what are the other areas where if I help them with their website and something else wasn't working, then their business isn't going to grow.
Yeah.
So email marketing was one of the things that I saw. It's like, okay, if I build out like the best designed website, it has the best flow, it does everything it needs to do, but their email marketing isn't great, or the way they do their list isn't working, then all of that work will be for nothing. And they'll see that they just spent all of this money redesigning their website and their business didn't grow.
Yeah.
So then they're going to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't given Paul all of that money to build my website. It looks great, but nothing's happening. So if you can help a client, and this is why I said I think it applies to VAs, because if you can help a client with the bottom line of their business through the skills that you have, it doesn't matter what, the skills can be varied, but if you can figure out how you can apply the skills you have to somebody's business and not just do something that they're like, hey, can you do so-and-so? And you're like, okay, yes, I'll do that. Like in the beginning, maybe that's good because then you can kind of learn and see what they need and start to look for patterns. But like as you get into it, it's like the more you can help a client with their business and start to see things that they aren't asking for, but they should be, that you can tell them about, so much better. And plus, if you have a client and you're doing one service for them and they like it and they like working with you, it's 5 times easier. So, something like that. I read a study once. It's like 5 times easier to keep a client than it is to get a new client. So if you have all of these value add services that are related to what you do, but not specifically, like for me, it was like web design and writing and like coming up with marketing plans. Like if they've already hired me to do their website, I've already sold them on me. So getting them to sign on to do a little bit more, maybe a month later, or a little bit more a month later, or a little bit more a month later, so much, because they already like working with me. Like all I need to do is start working with somebody for a day, and then they see that I actually do the work I say I'm going to do. Then they like me, they like working with me. And then it's so much easier to get them to want to do more, because then we can kind of show them like this whole, like everything's connected. So if we have all of the pieces firing at once, then it's going to be so much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say from my experience, having that as your big picture, going, okay, well, what Paul's basically sharing there is like having in mind how you can improve the results that your clients are getting, the growth of their business, the efficiency of their business, how they're connecting with their audience, and having in mind, okay, well, if I'm starting brand new, I've come out of working in a corporate office, I'm going to get into online work, I don't have a specific, typical digital skill set like design or like writing or what have you, but I'm coming in, I'm going, okay, where's my place here? If you have in mind what Paul's sharing there about that long-term vision of being able to come in and help your clients improve their results, it's okay from my experience to not necessarily start there, but having that as like your long-term growth. And that's a big part of why we're doing this MailChimp Q&A, is to kind of go, okay, here's where I want to get. I want to be helping my clients to improve things, refine things. But in the meantime, I can be using my skills, my attentiveness, my presence, my care factor to free up their time so they can do more of that big picture stuff. And then I can be learning and gradually working my way in. It's not like one day I'm a laborer and one day I'm a consultant. What I found is that it's actually like, if you choose it to be, it's actually like a natural progression where you can just gradually start being more proactive. Oh, hey, I noticed that this person did that. Should we try this? There's so many times where I've done things like, for example, Paul's course, Chimp Essentials. There's detailed tutorials in there where, I might study that now and go, oh, okay, we're going to implement for this for our clients. When I was brand new, starting out as a solo virtual assistant, I would often do things like study a tutorial like that and go, oh, hey, Paul knows how to do this. He's got this video. Would you like me to implement that for you? Right? So it's like I'm there, I guess I kind of was a laborer, but at the same time, I was kind of like having my clients back and having my radar out for them, not trying to, build up this pretense that I know it all about online marketing, but at the same time, being diligent about showing that I've got access to these resources. And clients love that, especially when you're positioning yourself as a virtual assistant or as a support person. They're not always, sometimes they're looking for consultants to come in and say, yeah, we're going to totally revolutionize your business. We're going to increase your conversion rates. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But sometimes what they're looking for is just someone to run alongside on team with them and go, hey, let's use this, let's try that. I'm not sure if it'll work, but we can follow what this person's strategy is and experiment with it, tweak it for us, that kind of thing. So what I would say there, the way I would describe it is kind of like it's that middle ground. It's not you're like a laborer. It's not like you're hopping on Fiverr and going, I'm going to do data entry and Word document formatting. And it's not like you're coming in as a marketing consultant, you know, the level where Paul is at the moment, but you're coming in with that care factor, that desire to learn skills, that desire to continue growing, and you're showing your clients that, you're letting your clients see that in the way that you, little things, in the way you kind of correspond with them, through email, through Skype conversations. Would you agree, Paul?
Yeah, and I think that's a smart way to go, is to just, when you're starting, is to just start to pay attention to the types of things people are asking for, or the types of things that you see that they need. And one of the most powerful things that you can say is like, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Because that gets that person on your side. Like, you don't have to be an expert at everything.
Yes.
But if people start asking you and you don't, if like, I don't even know the answer to some questions, but a lot of, like, if somebody's paying me, I'm like, I don't know, but I will find out for you and let you know.
Yes.
And that, like, I'm being honest because I don't know the answer, but I'm also showing them that I'm willing to do the work to get what they need done. And that's never backfired for me.
And I see you're even happy to do that publicly. There's so many times where I've heard you share, oh, I don't know that system, I don't work in that, so, you know, try this or try that. Like, you're just totally like not trying to paint a picture, you know, like I'm this big agency who knows everything, you know. You're like, here's what I'm good at, and I'm really good at it. Okay, so I guess that leads me on to, there was something that you and I chatted about when we were on the phone a few weeks ago, and you were sharing a little bit with me. Of course, you know, working as a web designer at the level that Paul does with those types of clients, he's coming into businesses where there's teams of other people. There's other freelancers or other consultants, other virtual assistants, and he talked about quite often the fact that it would be the VA on a team, or at one of the VAs, or a lead VA, or an online business manager, or what have you, that he would be collaborating with, because it's like he's coming in as the consultant doing this big transformation in the business, in the design and the functionality of the website, and then he needs to hand that over to someone, and that's not always directly to the client, or it's in, you know, collaboration with a virtual assistant. And you mentioned to me, you know, things about observing the career paths of VAs. Like, you know, someone's a VA and they're the people that end up being the operations manager or whatever. Can you share a little bit about like what you've seen behind the scenes in this industry network, so to speak?
Yeah, so there's a few things there. I think the first thing that is, all of the freelance VAs that I know weren't freelance VAs for very long. They ended up being poached by like a bigger client, like a 7 or 8 figure business brand, because they were so good at what they did, and they became like the business manager or the CEO or the COO or like operations manager, that sort of thing. So I think that it's such a great type of work that can be such a stepping stone into something more if you want it. Or VAs like that end up with a team of other VAs. And I think this is kind of like the path that you've taken a bit too, where it's like you become like a VA in charge of other VAs and teach other VAs. And then it's like, it just kind of grows. The other thing that I would say is that there's such a, and I read a study on this that Freelancers Union and Elance did from a few years ago, that was talking about how 80% of freelancers recommend other freelancers to clients. So for the good VAs that I worked with on certain projects that were freelancers, I would recommend them to other clients if they were like, okay, I'm gonna hire you to do your website. Who do you know that's a VA? And I'd be like, talk to that person, because this is the best one that I know. And then I would pass along work to them over and over again. And then they'd end up getting poached by somebody, then I couldn't pass work to them anymore. And then I would have to find another one. But so like there's always, it's really good when you work for yourself to know people both in your industry that you can, if you're too busy, you can pass work to them. And then maybe sometimes if they're too busy and you're kind of lean, then they'll pass work back to you. But it's also good to know freelancers that do auxiliary tasks to what you do. Like if I'm a web designer, it's really good that I know content writers, developers, and VAs. And if I was a VA, then it'd be really good if I knew web designers and developers, because if they came to me and they were like, well, I want to hire you to help run my business, but I need somebody to do my site, or I need somebody to code. It's like, well, I know somebody. I can point you that way. I've worked with them in the past. And that's always such a powerful statement. Like, I've worked with them in the past. I know they do a good job. They're not going to look anywhere else. They're never going to look anywhere else. They're just going to hire that person.
Yes, yes. And this is absolutely huge, guys. Like, if you're new to getting yourself set up, this is something that I try to share with people as much as I can, because you're not necessarily seeing this publicly go on before you're kind of up and running. You kind of start to see the extent of this once you've got yourself up and running with client work. And it's such a big part of business growth. You know, if you're out there proactively reaching out, or you're submitting applications, or you're speaking with potential clients, realize that if you start to get up and running, you start to get known, you start to have presence, you start to network and cross-refer, that's where a lot of your growth can come from. It's definitely been the case for me personally. You know, a lot of people talk about, asking for your clients for referrals after a project finishes, or, after they're happy and up and running with you. And that's been a part of our growth as well. But a huge part of it is actually, the larger part of our referral base is from other freelancers, including other VAs that are up and running, but just for whatever reason are full at that time, or they know you go all in on that system and they don't, or whatever it may be. So many reasons. Or you've got different rate levels and they're looking at someone at this rate. Or I refer clients to people that are looking for someone that's happy with a lower rate than what we charge it for the time being. So many different reasons. But what Paul was sharing there, that start 80%, that's so true from what I've observed. And it's a huge thing to be kind of take comfort in the fact that proactive outreach, that putting yourself out there, it's to kind of get up and running. And of course you can still do that when there's specific clients that you want to go after, but getting into that network is huge. So what kind of things, Paul, like, just name a couple of specific things that would get a VA on your radar as a web designer, as a consultant going in at that high level? What makes someone go, oh yeah, I need to tell that client about this person?
It's pretty easy. Like, if they do what they say they're going to do, I'm happy. Like,
do what they say.
It's so silly, like, because it's like, why would anybody not do that? But time and time again, and VAs, designers, writers, everybody I know, so many people don't do the work that they say they're going to do, or the work that they're going to get paid to do on time or on budget, or things go, and it's just like, just do the work. Yes. And that's like the biggest thing. And I mean, like, the icing on so that's like the cake. So the icing on the cake is just if they're good at communicating and not, just basically like good at taking charge where they need to take charge, letting somebody else take charge where they need to take charge, because it's all collaboration. Like, whether you're working with a client or another freelancer or like a group of VAs, like, it's all a collaboration. And what makes this work fun is when the collaboration is going well. So if you have the skills to be able to talk to other people, or to be able to delegate, or to be able to just take control and be like, I knew this needed to happen. Nobody specifically asked me to do it, but I got it done anyways.
Yep.
Then that's definitely something that I would pay attention to for sure.
So doing what you say you're going to do, proactivity, communication.
Yeah.
Huge, absolutely huge. Notice that Paul didn't say when they know MailChimp as well as I do, or when they know every software system under the sun. Of course you need to come to the table with the skills, but those things that Paul is sharing, that's what gets you on people's radars. Like, a lot of the times, I had a web designer that kind of mentored me as a new VA, and he kind of helped me to see the bigger picture, up-level my rates, work with better clients and all that type of thing. And for the most part, he had never directly watched me work inside an email marketing system or watched me run a product launch or what have you. He knew that I was doing those things just by the fact of our, loose association virtually through working with the same clients. But he would happily refer me and say, Danielle knows how to do that. He had no personal reference point. He was going completely based on our communication, our collaboration, all that type of thing. And so that's really huge. It's not like you have to be like passing this certification for people to be telling you about, for people to be referring you, right?
Yeah, people don't need, like I'm never going to see how somebody does the work. So it doesn't, as long as it gets done. Like, I don't know if you've been assigned a task and you go learn the task and then do the task. I don't know that. I care that it's done.
Yes.
Right. So Yeah, and a lot of times it's like, because when you do something that's kind of a soft skill set, because it could be so many different things, like there's no way you can be an expert at all of those things. But if you're willing to learn or work with somebody, or be honest with, like, this might take me a little bit longer because I just need to learn it, then do it. I don't see any problem with that whatsoever.
Me too, absolutely. And I've done that countless times and never had clients balk at it ever. They just want to know that you've got their back and that you're handling it on your time. I think that's so cool. So with that, let us kind of like move into the Q&A so we can get some nitty-gritty details about MailChimp. And just before we do that, I will share with you that Paul, I think, has a little surprise up his sleeve for later. What have you got there?
Very fancy.
So it's a fancy little surprise we've got. So if you're around at the end, we're going to kind of see who's hanging out to do a giveaway. So that's going to be a bit of fun. So just as we transition now into doing the Q&A on MailChimp, what I would say first up is that if you are new to working online, MailChimp is huge in that the email builder is like exceptional. For some reason, Paul probably knows the answer, but it's just like light years ahead of every other email software. You know, all email softwares have their own pros and cons, their own feature set, but the email builder, the thing that makes you look good as a brand new VA, the thing that allows you to create this output of a beautifully designed email and send a test to your client, have them go, wow, that's awesome. In MailChimp, it's super easy to use, right? Is that right, Paul?
It doesn't. So I don't, for all of the templates that I use for all of the things that I do, I don't use my design skills even 1%. Everything is drag and drop, or I just pick a font and a color.
Right. And so just using the buttons and the settings, just not code.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I'm not Mr. MailChimp for everybody. Like, if there's a better system for somebody specifically to use, MailChimp doesn't pay me.
Yeah.
Right. So like, if ConvertKit works better, or Infusionsoft works better for what you need, then I'm going to say use that instead of MailChimp. But I've just found that for some things, MailChimp does really well for the type of business that I have, and the type of business that some people have. It's just easy and it's fun, except for the little sweaty finger over the button. I always get nervous when you're going to send a campaign. There's like a little finger with like sweat dripping down. I'm like, maybe I am nervous to send it. Oh, crap.
I know what you mean. It puts the pressure on. It's like, oh, I better double check.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of why it's such a cool tool to be getting skilled up in. And as we go through the Q&A, you'll get the picture that it's not just about the email builder, that you can actually be doing the fancy email marketing automation things once you know how to use the feature set. So let's basically dive in. And so Sarah asked the question, Paul, how do you think VAs can show off their email marketing campaigns in a portfolio? I'd like to illustrate how I've created an education campaign for new subscribers and a sales funnel. Should I do a case study? Do you have examples of others that have marketed their email marketing skills? Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Sarah. So I think there's a couple ways to do this. The first one is that if you have your list set to public, then you'll get an archive bar, and then you can get the campaign URL from that bar, and you can share that on a website. So that's the easiest way to do it. But I think a smarter way to do it is to, and this applies like back a few steps from just talking about an email marketing campaign in your portfolio. You need to show people the value of your work. You can't just show them the work and be here, hey, here it is, right? So linking to the campaign would be good, but writing and Sarah has the right idea, like, write a success story about why this email marketing campaign worked for the client, what the results were, what the before and after were, and what the unexpected value was for that email marketing campaign. Write it up in a bit of a case study and link to it. Maybe show some screenshots. Maybe do like a video walkthrough of why you made decisions and how those impacted the results. That's going to be so much more powerful than just like, here's a list of links to the campaigns that I've sent for a client. Because clients need to be, like, if you're pitching somebody, you need to kind of show them, sometimes over the head, what the value of the work that you do is, because they might not know, because they don't have the same skills as you. Mm-hmm. So Sarah has the answer to this question. All right.
Yes, but you gave some great details, a video walkthrough. That, you know, who does that as a virtual assistant? You don't have to be positioning yourself as a consultant or an expert to do a video walkthrough and say, this is, you know, what I can do. So that's huge.
You don't even have to be on the screen. You can just record your screen. Then you don't even need to like put on a nice shirt.
Yeah, right. So that's cool if you're not yet comfortable with video, right? If you're not blogging and doing videos, you can just be screencasting with a mouse.
Exactly.
Huge. That's something that I also share for when people are doing proactive outreach, of being able to offer something specific, is you don't necessarily need to be on camera. You can be doing that with screencasting as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Renee asks, thanks for this, Paul and Danielle. One of my clients wants to offer a free opt-in with the option to buy a $47 digital product on the thank you page. How would and I know this is something that Paul does as well, so he'll be able to answer this. How would I differentiate between those who opted into the freebie and didn't buy and those who did buy?
Yeah, so I totally do this because you sign up for my list and then you get a little link to buy, I think, 5 of my books or something like that. So the way that you would do that is, and it depends what e-commerce system they use, but what you want to do, and this is kind of fundamentally why I teach Chimp Essentials, is you want to be able to sort people on your list into different groups. So if they buy something, you need to put them into a group or a segment on your list saying that they bought it. And then when you send out an email or you send out an automation sequence, you can say, do not send this pitch to sell this specific product to people who've already purchased this specific product. So you would just need to either through, and it could be, the sky's the limit. Like if you sell your products on Gumroad, then Gumroad can send that information to MailChimp. If you sell your products through any Stripe-enabled store, you can use Zapier to zap people who have purchased it onto your list into a purchaser group or into a purchaser segment. And that's, yeah, I go into exactly, like that's, I think, at least 2 of the lessons in Chimp Essentials with like exactly how to do it, but it's really possible. And that's a smart thing to do. Like you do want to be organizing your list into what people have done, what people have not done, what people have bought, where they signed up from, what they're looking for, what they're interested in. And the more you can kind of have all these little silos of people, the better you can do your email marketing. Because email marketing isn't just like write a campaign, send it to everybody. It's write a campaign that's right for a specific group of people on your list at the right time that have or have not done something. And that's how email marketing works.
And I think this is a really good time to bring up this huge point to be aware of, in that sometimes there can be this misconception that MailChimp manages people in lists, and so you just have to have people in one big bucket. And what Paul's sharing there is that you can actually be labeling or tagging or whatever is the jargon you use. Basically in MailChimp, you can get data in there to segment people just like you would in these other systems that use the terminology tagging. It's just different mechanics. And I would say, you know, having taken Chimp Essentials and all that kind of thing, I would say that the only difference, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul, but the only reason why people get that misconception is because I feel the mechanics for implementing the tagging or the labeling or the, you know, segmenting happens sometimes at the point of the web form, wherever is, or the point of the integration or whatever it is, wherever is your email subscriber is coming in from, whether it's a purchase, an opt-in, or what have you, a webinar. Sometimes you need to set the data there to come into MailChimp. And whereas exactly. People might go, okay, in other systems, the tagging happens inside, like in Infusionsoft Campaign or in ConvertKit automation rules or whatever it is. With MailChimp, all it is that you're setting that data to be applied to the contact record at the point of entry. Is that right? Or am I making that
exactly.
confusing?
The data needs to come from either the form or the purchase. But pretty much like everybody, and this is, it's interesting because there's a lot of, because I have a course on MailChimp, I deal with a lot of questions about MailChimp. And a lot of it is misconceptions that MailChimp can't do this, which is why I don't want it. I'm like, hold on a second. Like, I do this. I've seen some friends like Infusionsoft setups or ConvertKit setups. I'm like, I do that in MailChimp. Like, I do the exact same thing. It's different mechanics, and sure, some systems, like, it's way easier to tag in ConvertKit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's easier to tag in ConvertKit. But there are so many different things that are easier in MailChimp to do. So it's not like one's better than the other. It's more like how do you work, and does this system, does this piece of software work with the flow that you have and with the way that you understand how systems work?
Yes, exactly. And from my experience as a VA, you know, a lot of clients, they're in love, attached with those beautiful MailChimp emails, and they don't want to give them up, right? So,
oh yeah.
So if you have to do just a tiny little bit more work to be able to segment and group people properly, is that really relevant if the client is getting that experience of having their branding and their business the way they want it to be? And so knowing that's possible, I think, that's why it was huge from my perspective, is being able to say yes to clients.
And it's always one and done. Like, you do the work once to segment people, and then they're always, like, new people are always segmented that way or grouped this way. Or you set up an integration with an e-commerce system, and it just always flows into that. Like, you set up all of these things one time, and then you don't have to set them up again. Like, you don't have to go in and manually tag people every time somebody buys something. I wouldn't use MailChimp. If it worked like that, that would be so much work. I wouldn't do that.
So I would say, write down in your notes, there's two big things. Well, there's a lot of things, but the next two big things you want to look at hidden merge fields in MailChimp. If that's like totally jargon to you, you haven't heard of that before, write it down, plan to research it. Of course, Paul teaches that in Chimp Essentials, how to set up the mechanics, how to integrate it with WordPress, web forms, etc. But you want to start looking into that and look at also Zapier integrations like Paul was chatting about that can put people in groups. So look at MailChimp groups, look at hidden merge fields, start to research this, start to get a feel for this. This is how you're going to allow your clients to be segmenting people accurately, sending automation emails to the right people, doing it in that refined way. So start to check that out. And Paul teaches it, of course, in detail. So Alex says, what are some of the best ways to make a newsletter attractive so that people actually read it, particularly people who get lots of emails each day, so have a tendency to skip past newsletters? Making them attractive.
So the answer to that has absolutely nothing to do with MailChimp or email marketing. It has to do with, you have to write something that people want to read. Like, if that falls short, like, there's so many different, like, you can, and this doesn't apply just to MailChimp, this applies to any system. If you add the proper email verification and domain verification, so adding a couple DNS records to your domain name that says that MailChimp or ConvertKit or Infusionsoft can send emails as you, instead of saying sent from Paul Jarvis via MailChimp or sent from Danielle via Infusionsoft, that helps them get delivered. But you have to write emails that people want to read. And the best way to write emails that people want to read is to listen to what they're talking about. Like, all of the articles that I write for my list come from things that people on my list have been talking to me about. Like, they email me, I ask them questions, I do little surveys. Sometimes I usually do one big survey every year with Typeform, where they say, like, what they do, what they're interested in, what they're motivated by. You can even, I've seen this work for so many people. I think Brennan Dunn, probably the best example of that, is his welcome email that sends out. He asks people, what are you working on and what are you struggling with? And there's no way he's ever going to run out of great things to write about by asking those two questions when people first sign up for his list. Because then he can start to look for patterns, and he can start to see, like, hey, everybody's struggling with this one type of freelancing. I can write an article about this. So I think engaging with like, a lot of people feel like email works the way, like, Walmart emails people, which is just, it's a one-way communication. Here's a bunch of sales. It's sent from no reply at Walmart. I don't know, I'm not on Walmart's mailing list, but I'm assuming it's sent from something like nobody checks that email. Whereas if you're a BA, or if you're working for yourself, or if you're doing email marketing in a smarter way, it's like, tell people, foster engagement, tell people they can reply, ask people questions. Chris Brogan asks people at the beginning of every single one of his emails, what are you drinking?
Oh, wow.
Nothing to do with business, but he's like, this gets people talking about so many different things, and he gets so many ideas, and it helps him build out products and books and even just write new emails. So just making that email, I did this so much at the beginning as well, is try to foster this two-way engagement. So because then people really feel invested. They're like, okay, I got Paul's email and I replied, and he replied back. Now I feel like he's listening to me and I'm listening to him. So it becomes like an actual relationship instead of just Paul's blasting my inbox every week. I don't want to read it. And that's the original question that Alex asked, was trying to get people to read it. Is like, you got to write things that people want to read, and you have to, if people feel connected to you in some way, and I really think it's the asking questions thing that really helps. then that's really going to help people want to open the email. There's no secret, like you got to use red.
Yes.
There's no secrets there. It's just being compelling and being engaging.
Yes. And as a virtual assistant, I think one of the things that you can be really aware of here is that feel free to step up and self-appoint yourself as that quality filter for your client, right? This is something that I've always done right from the beginning, even when I was like a brand newbie, because I started working in topic areas and niches that I had a personal passion for, that I was already an audience member of. So in that case, it was natural health, where a lot of my initial clients came from. And so I had this ability, as a VA, when you're doing the type of services that I teach inside the online biz skills, that those online marketing implementation skills, the day-to-day blog editing, the email marketing, formatting, the creating landing pages, you're in there monitoring the social media inboxes and the messages coming in, you're doing customer service, you're seeing emails coming in, you're forwarding things to your client where relevant. You're at the front lines of seeing that type of correspondence that Paul's talking about, what people are asking, what's on their mind, what they're saying, and you can actually be doing things like, this is one of the things that we do for our clients, is we have a Google Doc, those type of things, so that we can we just copy and paste. We don't worry about formatting it. Okay, copy and paste that from social, copy and paste that from the blog, copy and paste that from customer service, whatever it is. And it's just a brain dump on a Google Doc that's shared with the client. Most of the time, we're the ones referencing it. And when it comes time to help the clients brainstorm out the next email marketing topic that they're writing on, or they're getting a copywriter to write, depending on what business model they have, whether it's in their own voice or it's a company, etc. Whether we're doing a blog editorial calendar for them, whether we're brainstorming content headlines, we've got that to draw on. So that, that's a task that you can be doing. And you can be doing it, on billable time, in and around all those other management stuff, that ongoing stuff you're doing as a VA. You can be getting that information in and then proactively reaching out to your client and going, hey, what we got going for the email newsletter here next week, this would be a really cool topic, or what have you, depending on how far in advance you want to do. So when Paul was sharing there about making sure you're writing these things, you can be thinking at it, if you're planning to start an online business, you can be thinking of it from your own perspective. But from my perspective, I have never actually written for clients. I have helped them write in their own voice. I have collaborated with copywriters or outsourced to writers on their behalf, all that type of thing. But don't feel like you need to always be writing for a client in order to help them improve their email marketing. That's a huge part of where you can add value as a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I've never written a client's email, but I've helped so many people and charged a lot of money to do email marketing help. Yeah.
Okay, so some of the consulting work that you do for the email marketing aspect for clients is not just the list management, tech setup, etc., but it's the content consulting as well.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it comes down to setting up, like I was talking about, like setting up smart funnels or setting up smart ways to email the right person, the right email at the right time. Yeah. It's segmentation automation. I see that's the next question anyways. But yeah, okay. It's a lot of just like setting up their business to run smoother and more efficiently and automatically where possible.
Gotcha. Excellent.
Yeah, like I might suggest a new headline, but I don't do any writing for clients with emails either.
Okay, cool. I think a lot of new people would take comfort in that fact. It's not like it is about the writing, but you can add value even if you're not doing it, right?
Yeah, you can make suggestions.
Value. Yes, and that's a huge part of their perception of what you're bringing to the table. It's massive. So thank you for that question, Alex. Now, Robin asks, wondering if MailChimp allows many scheduled follow-up emails for the sale of a product. For example, 365 emails for a year's worth of morning meditations.
Yeah, this is an easy one. Automation. They totally do that. You just set up, add an email, next day, add an email, super simple.
Great. And then wherever the e-commerce angle is, whether if they're purchasing it, you said it was a product, right, Robin? Yes. So wherever they're purchasing it, if there's a direct integration with MailChimp or if there's a Zapier integration, that is coming in, and that is therefore getting them onto that automation sequence so that they start running through it. And just for, you know, a big picture, if you're brand new to MailChimp, there's two main components of where you're going to be setting up emails to your clients as a campaign, which is those one-off broadcasts that get scheduled in advance, or you can also publish them right away to send out, and the automation workflows where you're setting up those automated sequences of emails that trigger after a client, somebody takes a specific action on your client's website, or they purchase a product, or they attend something, or they express interest in something, then that sequence is triggered just for them on an automated basis after you've set it up with all the little variables that say that they should receive that automation sequence.
Yeah.
And Suzanne says, I'm finding a lot of people in Facebook groups are recommending other programs over MailChimp like ConvertKit. And I think you already kind of touched on this, Paul. What would you say are the reasons one should choose MailChimp?
So a lot of people recommend ConvertKit because their affiliate program's awesome.
Okay.
They recommend ConvertKit because they get paid a lot of money to do that. And ConvertKit's a great system. The reason I like MailChimp is because, one, it does everything that any other email system does. It does it in a great and easy way, and it's also a much bigger. Like, it's funny because ConvertKit. Like, I'm friends with Nathan Barry. Like, I have products with Nathan. And it's a great. Like, there's nothing bad to say about it. But like MailChimp.
That's the creator of ConvertKit, guys. It's Paul's friend.
Yeah, that's a guy who invented ConvertKit. Is a buddy of mine who I teach products with. But MailChimp, just like, they have so many users. They have such great tech support. All of the systems that exist that can help you become a really smart email marketer for your business or for your client's business exist in MailChimp. So it's just a matter of doing your research and seeing, like, okay, what do I want to do? And does the system allow me to do it? Cool. Like, MailChimp's affiliate program sucks. Like, you really don't get paid for recommending MailChimp to anybody else. So, and right. ConvertKit, I know a lot of people that make a lot of money recommending ConvertKit. So.
Right. Okay. There you go. And that kind of just prompts me when you said, you know, there's a lot of things you can do really well in MailChimp. I just want to make sure that people are aware of this particular thing as a VA is the A/B testing feature. Yeah. My experience is that is super easy to implement, even if you're not a techie person, a coder, you've been an online digital marketing strategist for ages, you can do A/B testing in MailChimp. Would you agree, Paul?
Yeah. I love A/B testing, and it doesn't require any programming skills. You just set up two different things, and you say, okay, in this option, send this, and this option, send this. Pick a winner, and then that goes out to the rest of the list. And then you can start to show clients like how they can get better results from their emails too. And clients always like that. It's like your open rate just increased by 10% because we sent 80% of the list the winner of the two A/B tests. So
imagine how a client feels when you send that quick little one-liner through email or through your project management space. Hey, we did this test, and you know this is the result. Can you imagine how they feel when you've not outright said, I'm a consultant or I'm going to improve your results, and just as a VA, you're like, oh, hey, we did this test, and they're like, oh, you know, that's what you talk about becoming irreplaceable, creating that perception of the go-to person, proactively thinking about how you can, you know, help your client early on. So definitely put that in your notes, research that, because something as simple as just A/B testing just the subject line is going to go a long way to helping your client have that experience of just feeling like you're on team. So we'll ask one more here, and then I want to get straight into the giveaway. So Gabrielle said in MailChimp, yes. No, we already covered that one, so we'll jump to the next one. So Gabrielle said, in MailChimp, do you have the option to tag a subscriber with info about their interested habits? Can Paul speak about lists of subscribers versus subscribers with tags?
Sure, I can actually
talk
about that. So this is one reason why people love ConvertKit, is because you don't pay for the same person. And somebody just mentioned this in the comments too. If you create, and I wish MailChimp, so this is something that MailChimp could do better. Like, they let you create 50 lists that the same person could be on each of those 50 lists. And then you're paying for that person 50 times, which kind of sucks. But if you create, so it comes in, and this is one of the reasons why I teach Chimp Essentials, is because you can do the same thing that ConvertKit does, pay for a subscriber once. If you have one list that is segmented and grouped, so you group people and you segment them on a single list. So I have like, I don't know, 5 or 15 products. I have a lot of products. And every time somebody buys them, they go on to the same list and they get a different automation sequence based on the product that they purchased. And I'm only paying for that person. I'm cheap. I don't want to pay for the same person like 3 times every single month. So yeah, there's a way to do it. It just requires a bit more, like, I'm not gonna lie, it requires a little bit more work in the beginning on MailChimp, but then it runs exactly the same. So you can have one list, and this is actually, so because I get paid as a consultant to help people fix their like 20 or 50 list problem and mush it into one list. I teach how to do that in Chimp Essentials, so it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and this is a huge thing. Every time that I have started working with a new client in MailChimp, it's the same scenario. And early on, I didn't know, that there was anything wrong with that. I was kind of like, oh, well, we need these lists, because otherwise how are we going to know that these people came from that launch and those people came from over here? And then you soon start to realize, okay, now we can have the client managing one list and have it all segmented up. And then we're able to achieve exactly what we want to. And so
then you get to tell the client, hey, I just saved you like $400 a month on your MailChimp bill.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So before you get into the weekly management, the email formatting, the campaigns, the list cleanup, the setting up new web forms, one of the things that you might be proactively doing, either to offer to an existing client who you want to up level with MailChimp, or to reach out to a client that you know is using MailChimp, is offer to do that initial refinement, cleanup. Get them set up. That is something you can do kind of on a project basis as your entryway, either into a new client relationship or into expanding your work volume, or your proactivity with an existing client. Really huge.
Yeah, call it a road mapping session or a strategy session, charge them money, show them exactly what they need to do. And then you're like, if you need somebody to implement it, and 100 times out of 100, they're going to pick you because you told them what they need to do. So
yes. Perfect. And did you say charge for the road mapping session?
Charge for the road mapping session, yeah.
Make a note of that, people. Make a note. Okay, so I think we should call it there because we're on the hour, and I know there's a lot. No, there's not a lot, but there's a few more questions. And what I'm going to do over the next 24 hours is I'm going to go in there and type in some notes, some little links, mention things, things that are covered, or just give you the name or the reference point to go and research further. So if I didn't get to your question, or if Paul and I didn't get to your question, just check back in on the same Crowdcast link over the weekend and just see if I've added in any little notes for you to go and start digging in further there. But what I'd really like to do now is make sure that we get an opportunity to check out this awesome little bonus that Paul has. So Paul, tell us a bit of the backstory. What have you got in your hand there?
So I have a deck of MailChimp playing cards, which is nothing more than just, it's fun to have a deck of MailChimp playing cards. So a student took my course, Chimp Essentials. He's a magician, which is awesome. And he sent me a pack because he's like, I got so much value from your course, I wanted to send you a present. Even though he paid for the course. We liked the course so much that he paid for it, he sent me a present, which was awesome. So I saw it and I was like, this is the most well-designed deck of cards that I've ever seen in my entire life. And then I was like, well, I teach a course on MailChimp, so maybe I'll get a bunch of decks. So I'm not going to give this one away because this one's open, but I'll give away one. Like, look at the monkeys. That's cool.
That is so cool. That is so good.
It's just a gorgeous deck of cards. So let's give an unopened deck. So I've opened this one. Let's give away an unopened deck of cards to somebody watching now.
Okay, awesome. So I don't know what's cooler, the fact that they're actual MailChimp playing cards, or someone's going to get a package personally from Paul Jarvis, because you're shipping this from your house, right?
I am, yeah. Well, I'm shipping it from the postal outlet that's like an hour away because I live in the woods on an island. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Paul lives on Vancouver Island, just for background there. But, when Paul shared with me that he had these and I checked them out, I was like, oh, they're so stunning. The aesthetic's beautiful. And because I was looking at them in the detail on the website as well where they're available. And the thing that popped into my mind, I'll just share quickly, because I love MailChimp. I'm a fan, and I've spent many, times on their chat support, chatting with people, and I've kind of expressed my gratitude. You guys are awesome. MailChimp has the best support. Awesome as a VA to have someone who's got your back for free at pro level. So being able to, you know, kind of go, hey, I'm trying to do this. I did this or did that. And when I would express gratitude at one stage, they're like, hey, you know, you're hanging out here with us all the time. We're going to send you a T-shirt. And here's the thing, I don't need another T-shirt, right? And I wear this T-shirt, I wear it when I'm speaking with clients sometimes or whatever. It's not that I need another T-shirt, but, you know, one of the things that I learned a long time ago and which I've used to build my VA career is a thing that I learned from Tony Robbins is, you know, the most powerful force in the human personality is, you know, the need to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. And that sounds a little bit woo-woo, a bit fancy, but it's just so ridiculously true. You know, wearing that MailChimp T-shirt, I'm kind of like, in my headspace, there's this element of like, yeah, I'm someone who's a fan of MailChimp. I'm someone who's all in on this. I'm someone who's got my clients back on MailChimp. So it's partly about it's like this beautiful deck of cards and, you know, this, you know, fun little gift, but it's also, it's like, you know, it's that part of your identity as you start to lean in and have that presence working online. I mean, that's what it meant to me. So that's why I was super excited. Nice. So to see who's going to take this home, what I would love you to do, if you're here with us live, I would love you to share two things, two little quick phrases in the chat. So in the sidebar chat, share with Paul and I. What is the one MailChimp feature or service that you are setting your intention on to master next or first? So it could be a feature that we mentioned. It could be that you're going to learn how to create templates for clients and get them styled up. It could be you're going to go and learn how to embed web forms with hidden merge fields, even though you've just been doing campaigns before. Whatever it is, one feature or skill that you're going to master and what you're going to do with it. So what's the feature or the skill? And are you going to use it to reach out to a new client? Are you going to use it to contact an existing client? Are you going to use it to rewrite your services page? Are you going to use it to write, you know, record a video walkthrough that you could share with someone explaining how you can help them with that? So just two short phrases, what the feature is, how you're going to use it. Just go with your intuition, whatever comes first, even if you're brand new to this, and we're just going to read through them quickly so then Paul can let us know which one jumps out at him. So type that in, and there's a bit of a delay because we're on Google Hangouts. So, yeah, I'll just share briefly while we're waiting for that to come in that this is kind of the approach that I've taken as a VA, whether it's in MailChimp or whether it's in another software system or whether it's in a particular service set as a whole, like blog management or email marketing support or email marketing strategy or whatever it is. You know, I've kind of gone, okay, what are the clients that I'm working with doing at the moment? What is it that they've got experts coming in that I'm not helping with? So has my client got an expert coming in to do, am I handing, you know, web form embedding over to a web developer because I don't know how to do that yet? Or is a marketing consultant coming in? And I would kind of look at what's going on around me. And I still do this now. It's always the case, but especially in the first couple of years when I was really looking to grow my career. And I would kind of be aware of that. I would pay attention to that. And I would kind of go, what's the next one thing that I'm going to dig into, research, you know, look on YouTube, buy a course, ask that freelancer, have their back so I earn the right to ask for a little bit of their time to show me how they do that, or whatever it is, just this gradual increase of the comfort zone until you get to that point where it's not like you get everything in your comfort zone. As Paul was sharing, he still doesn't know everything. But as you kind of gradually, one by one, increase your comfort zone, it gets to this point where you no longer have that, oh, I'm out of my depth feeling. You're just like, oh, I don't know that, but I'll figure it out. Or I don't know that, so I'll delegate it to someone else, or I'll refer it, or whatever. And you know that even though you don't know everything about every software system, that you just get to that comfort level where you know how to get the resources you need to make it happen. Do you agree with that, Paul?
Totally agree with that, yeah.
So that's why I asked that question, because I want to know, okay, this is all awesome and you probably got a lot of details, but what's that one thing for you? So let's check it out. Let's see what we got in the chat here. So I'll scroll back up. Can you see them too, Paul?
Oh yeah, there's lots of good ones. I'm just gonna pick a random number because I don't want to play favorites.
Okay, we'll do random, and I'll just read out a few first. So I'm not up to it yet. So MJ Merritt said segmentation and expanding services. And Terry said feature automated delivery to follow on a schedule after submitting the proposal. Okay, cool. Renee said segmentation to better serve my current clients. So this is obviously something that's really come out of this, people being aware of that, focus on the segmentation. Leah said A/B test for myself and my biz. Fantastic. So much growth can come out of that. Suzanne said learn more about the automation sequence and how one action can trigger something different. Great. And to increase my skills to be more beneficial to potential clients. Great. Nicole said segmentation, automation, and use it to build my friend's craft business. I love the specificity of that, Nicole. Great. Misha said automation is brilliant and figuring out client lists. Carolyn Kloss. Hi, Carolyn. So good to have you here. She said, I want to learn more about automation and grow into a consulting role to add to my business. Alex said, I'm going to get rid of multiple lists and make a list and segment it properly. Then I'm going to focus on using the segment to create newsletters that are compelling to the reader rather than broad and trying to appeal to all. Robin, automations to create a new product and A/B test for my clients to surprise them. I love that. That's super cool. That's playful too. So I'll keep reading through afterwards. Thank you everyone for sharing. But Paul, do you want to just grab a random number or scroll your mouse along and see who we land on?
Yep, I grabbed a random number and I counted. I grabbed my wife's birthday and then I counted up. So Terry Passerino wins.
Terry Passerino, fantastic. So you're getting the MailChimp playing cards shipped from Vancouver Island. Terry, send us an email to hello@valifestyledesign.com to me and the team and share your address with us. I'll pass that on to Paul so he can ship it off to you. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us here. I'm just really excited about this ability to network and collaborate as freelancers, regardless of what our, what we're titling or labeling ourselves as, a virtual assistant, designer, writer, whatever it is, and building that network that we can kind of grow together and also learn from this expertise and that broad picture that Paul's been able to share with us today. So if you would like to find out more about Paul's course, that's Chimp Essentials. It's at chimpessentials.com. And up until next Monday, so the 29th of August, Chimp Essentials is actually coming bundled in with my primary VA skills training course called the Online Biz Skills. So basically what that means is if you're getting your VA career up and running and you want to learn the actual skill sets to do online marketing implementation, so blog management, email marketing, landing page creation, online customer support, social media management for your clients, then you can learn that through the Online Biz Skills. But coming bundled in with that is Paul's Chimp Essentials course, so that you can then deep dive into the MailChimp tech specific. So all of that, those extra features that we talked about, and also, gradually nudging your way along that continuum from supporting person into consulting or into proactively helping clients improve their results. Okay, so awesome to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been so valuable.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, talk soon, guys. I'll be here in the chat for a minute. And like I said, check back on the replay. Check back on the link in the next couple of days. I'm just going to add some notes into those other questions as well. All right, talk soon.